which is particularly small and neat, not the writing of anyone I knew. The words were quite legible, but they were very odd. Go, by itself at the top of the sheet, and the same word repeated twice below, followed by get out at once. Of course, I showed Sarah this when she came in to luncheon, and she could not account for it any more than I. The sheets were unmarked when she took them out of her portfolio, of that she seemed to be certain. Somebody has been playing a trick on us, she said. If it is Mrs. Mills, it is an odd sort of notice. And at this very mild witticism, both of us laughed. But the idea of a trick being played was absurd. I had been in the room the whole time, as I said, unless you think I dozed off while you were out and did it in my sleep. Sarah laughed again and began to sort the loose papers back into place. "Why, here is more of it," she exclaimed. And I saw on the sheet she held out, in the same large scroll, a repetition of the words, get out at once. Now I could have sworn, had swearing been of any use, that I had looked those papers over on both sides after finding the first writing, and with that sole exception, they bore no mark whatever. So these last words must have been written after my discovery and before Sarah's return, and while I was beside them in the room. Surely they had been traced by no mortal hand. You will not wonder that such a curious happening was the subject of discussion between us during the rest of that wet day. "I'd give anything to know who did it," Sarah was saying, while I added, "I should like better still to know what it means." I am more credulous than Sarah, and it seemed to me that there must be some meaning in anything so unaccountable. I had this feeling from the very first, and as you will see, both the conviction and the reason for it grew. I pass on to the following Sunday. The weather was still wet, and the children were kept mainly to the house. For the sake of variety for them, Sarah had little Dick and Nancy upstairs in our sitting room for their Sunday lessons, which as a rule devolve on her to give, as she is a cleverer teacher than I. Lessons of the simplest, as they generally consist of showing pictures and giving explanations, and to be allowed to look at Sarah's illustrated Bible is a frequent Sabbath treat. The children had gone down again to nurse, and Sarah was about to tidy the book away, when she gave a sharp exclamation. "Grace, look here! Who can have done this?" The volume was lying open in the 19th chapter of Genesis, and these words in the 22nd verse were scored under blackly in pencil. "Haste thee, escape." Now Sarah, who is particular in everything, is especially so about her books. She hates any soil or mark upon them, and nothing irritates her more than to have a lent volume returned with purple passages scored beside in the margin, whether in approval or otherwise. "Tut, tut," she was saying at the usual pitch of exasperation. "It is really unpardonable. Where is my India rubber? I must see if I can take it out. It could not have been the children, and the Millers would never. But there is nobody else." "You would have seen had it been the children. They're good little things, and would not. Besides, they had not a pencil." Thus I weakened an argument based on their righteousness. And what odd words to have chosen to mark, when you think of the other scrolls. I wonder if this is all. It is possible there may be more. I shall look the book right through and see, and then I shall lock it in my box. Sarah sat down to her task, armed with the piece of rubber, and by no means in a Sabbath spirit of peace and goodwill. She did find 2 other texts scored under, and these were the marked words. 2 Kings, 9th chapter and 3rd verse. "Open the door and flee, and tarry not." St. Matthew, 7th chapter and 27th verse. "The house fell, and great was the fall thereof." I was superstitious, because disturbed by these happenings, so I was told. Yet who would not have been affected in my place? I believe Sarah, too, was disquieted in her secret mind, though she would not allow it. But then she was used to pride herself